Okay. Great. Got people coming in, joining us. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to have you tonight. Okay. All right. So while everyone's coming in, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Sharique Richardson. I'm serving as the president of the, of course, New Orleans chapter of AMA, American Marketing Association. And before I turn it over to Patera, who's going to be our illustrious moderator tonight, I just wanted to just invite you all, if you're not a member of the American Marketing Association, to please join us. We would definitely love to have you. We definitely always are looking for new minds, new relationships, and things of that nature. And obviously, we're looking to expand the marketing community. We also want to just make you aware that we have some great events coming up. Most notably will be our case competition, which is when we have students from regional colleges who compete against each other for bragging rights and a cash prize to help solve a marketing struggle that a local business is having. So this is going to be giving them real world experience. So if you're looking for interns, if you're looking for just looking for great raw talent, this is a great event to come out to support the students from our local colleges and even some from the region. So I just want to make you all aware of that. November 6th at 6 p.m. is going to be on Tulane's campus. Also, you can check us out at amaneworleans.com. Check out our events tab. You can see all the events that we're doing. Make sure that you just keep checking on that, so you make sure that you know about our happy hours, which we have coming up, as well as information on joining our professional chapter. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Patera, who is going to take it from here.
Good evening, everyone. I am thrilled to have the three panelists join us this evening to have a very powerful and impactful conversation on AI and SEO. We are currently living in a space now where we are seeing AI integrated in many aspects of our lives. This includes machine learning technology as well. I'm going to turn it over to our panelists here so that each of them can introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Mr. Brian.
Sure. Thanks. I'm excited to be here for the event. I'm a SEO nerd way back, and so this is an exciting thing to be a part of. Excited to hear from everybody on the panel. So my name is Brian Reed. I am the Vice President at FSC Interactive, a digital marketing agency in New Orleans. And yeah, I love SEO. Really interested in how this is AI is impacting us with that, and yeah, eager to learn and share what I've found as well.
Thank you so much, Brian. And now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Paula.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. I'm Paula French. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at Search Influence. We are also a New Orleans-based agency. As you might imagine, we were founded as a search engine optimization firm originally. We're about to hit our 20-year anniversary at the beginning of 2026, so we're really excited about that. And beyond SEO, we do paid ads, email, and a lot of analytics work. And we work with clients both here in New Orleans as well as across the country. We focus in really three main verticals: higher ed, healthcare, and hospitality. That we do work outside of those verticals as well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And last but not least, would love to hear from Miss Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Walter. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Search and Content Director at Online Optimism, where I've worked for a little bit over 8 years. And like y'all, we're headquartered in New Orleans, but we do also work with clients around the country. Obviously, my area of expertise is SEO, but we offer a range of other digital marketing services as well. So excited to be here and talk about the changing landscape with AI.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into the big question that many of our attendees want to know. Is AI really, truly affecting search traffic, or are we just panicking over something that's new?
I can jump in. I was going to let you all go first, but I'll jump in. So yeah, this is funny. Like, there have been a lot of things that have come before this that people have panicked about, like voice search. I can remember way back um, when I was doing a SEO meetup and Benta, I was doing something on voice search, and I can remember she's on this call. That's why I'm referencing her. She gave me this look like this is not a real thing, and sure enough it's not been a thing really that's impacted us. I think the difference in AI is that in some of the ways that we're seeing it is it's actually embedded in the search results, right? Like it's not the case for all of them, but in some of them it is, and it's a very prominent space. You don't have to go over to your, talk to something, whatever. It is like right there when you're searching. And so, yeah, from that, we definitely are seeing the impact. It's got that prime real estate. We can see it in click-through rates for sure. Ahrefs did a study that 45.5% decrease in click-through rates. This is for AI overviews. So it's definitely making an impact. That has to make a difference on site traffic because the click-through rates on the AI overviews are like 1% from what we can tell. But this isn't exactly new. Things like instant answers and things like that have impacted traffic in the past. And, um, so this is an adjustment. I think for clients, we have seen false, other people say like 20 to 60%. So like, I think it's all over the map in terms of like click-through rates, what people say. We've not seen anything that extreme, but we have seen impacts, and it really has shown up in some of those places where people don't need to go deeper on the content, and it can just be served up there. Similar kind of to AI or to instant answers, we've seen that it's definitely tailed off some of the traffic on those. But whether I think a different question, not one that you're asking though, is like, are things like ChatGPT impacting Google? And that's a story that I mean, other folks might have a better idea. That's not something that I think I have a great grasp of. But as far as Google, yes, we have seen it, and we have seen some impacts on clients as well. They haven't been as large as maybe some people are talking about, but they're definitely have seen impact, real impact.
Yeah, I'll jump in next. We've seen a bit of an impact as well. We have for clients where we have been working with them for years and years and have gotten their organic traffic up to like a really high level. That's where we're seeing the most impact. Like newer clients who still have a lot of headroom to grow are not seeing as much impact because we're increasing their traffic with the SEO that we're doing. So it's a little funny because you can't just take like an average of all of our clients and be like, okay, on average, what percentage are they up or down? Because everybody's got all these different scenarios. But to kind of jump in where Brian left off with ChatGPT versus Google, I think it's not necessarily a replacement for Google. I think people go to each for a little bit of a different thing. I think that it could continue to shift. And as much as ChatGPT has taken off and as many prompts and searches that people are doing on ChatGPT, there's so much more happening on Google, and it's just such still the behemoth. And that is where, even if you're thinking about like measuring and paying attention to your AI visibility, you should really be paying attention to that on Google more than you are on ChatGPT. I mean, you should still eventually pay attention to ChatGPT, but if you're like really have to prioritize and say, okay, where are we going to be focused? The AI overviews on Google is what you should care about the most.
And I'll just add one quick thing. I think y'all have covered a lot of what I would have wanted to say, but it's funny, I had that same Ahrefs study pulled up, Brian, and I have a different study, SE ranking, just because I was curious, yeah, exactly how much of a piece of the puzzle is ChatGPT and things like Perplexity actually dipping into things. And they reported that just 0.15% of global internet traffic was AI traffic. So incredibly small. Traditional search is close to 50%. So that just puts it into perspective. But again, we might see that grow, or if your audience very specifically is looking for those types of things, like Paula was saying, people do tend to use Google and ChatGPT a little bit differently. So then it may make more sense, but Google absolutely still has the lion's share.
Thank you for those responses. So now that we're talking about Google, I'm going to lean into our next question, which is Google has been the king of search forever. Should marketers be wary of Google harvesting our content and feeding it into LLMs? And just to add to that, is Google's long-term goal to have all search queries answered by AI and have users stay on Google's SERPs indefinitely? What are your thoughts there?
I think that Google would love that, but I don't think that the humans really want that. I think that there's a lot of information that you can get from an AI answer and a summarized answer, but in order to, at least right now, in order to truly like convert and really interact with a business, you still have to go to their website. You know, you could talk about like agentic AI and the fact that like you can make the machines book your wedding venue for you and all of those things and like be your personal assistant. But I think that we're a very, very, very long way off from people really being to that point. And so I think that a lot of people are still going to continue to be stuck in that world of like, I want to go to the business's website. And I think that there's just so much information that's out there that people kind of want to hear directly from a business before they go spend, let's say, hundreds of thousands of dollars when they're making a B2B purchase decision. So I think it depends on what they're buying is going to be a big difference. And are they doing like surface level, like high level research, or are they a little bit further into the funnel? And meaning like, can Google actually try to replace a business's website in that sense?
And I also think, like, I always follow the money. Google's a publicly traded company. As much as they want you to be loyal to them, they make over 75% of their money from ads. And so they don't want you to stay on Google. They want you to click on their ads. That is where they make their money. And so we actually would have way more AI overviews now if they could figure out the right way to monetize it. And they're getting there, guys. AI Max, AI search, right? Like, get ready for it. It's already out there some, but they're not going to tank, their cash cow, which is search and clicks from ads. They want to kind of balance that, and that's probably why it's moved a little bit slower than some of the others. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of ads, I do think that, there's so many different places within Google where you can appear, whether it's ads, the organic listings, all of the rich snippets, the AI overviews. And so even if people, we've seen that when you appear in multiple places, it can give you more of that traffic. But obviously people are going to be clicking on one or the other, not necessarily both. So even if you are, seeing fewer people clicking on your organic results, if that is tied with powerful Google ads, then they may still be working together holistically.
Pateri, you are muted right now.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. So just thinking about the Google ads and how potentially they are sourced using spiders behind the scenes or even crawlers. Should websites block AI crawlers? Is there a way to get content indexed in search results but not added to an AI training model, for example? And this is thinking about Cloudflare, like what Cloudflare is trying to do with its content signals policy.
At this point, that's definitely not something we would recommend. I mean, your information is free on your website, and if you want to be found, you ultimately have to make it accessible by, to everybody who wants to crawl it and display it on their websites. So yeah, you really just have to let it be out there, or else you're going to risk your visibility and risk your business.
Yeah, I think the bigger question is, can you afford not to be appearing there? Can you afford not to be appearing everywhere that's possible?
And on the Cloudflare issue, I can talk more about it later because I think it might fit in. But I think the reason why they're doing that is for sites that have content agreements with different LLMs, right? So if I'm a news site, or if I'm a news sites in most cases that have specific content agreements where Perplexity is paying me $1 billion for my feed, I don't want that to show up on any of the others. And so Cloudflare gives the ability to turn those on and off. So yeah, I think I agree with everybody here. You in most cases want to be showing up. So
I think our host is frozen, unfortunately. I can jump in with the next question. Oh, there we go. All right, she's back. All right.
Yeah, so just switching gears a bit, looking at how can marketers adapt. Do you all feel that we need to restructure how content is presented on websites? Do the AI crawlers have different content preferences than search engine crawlers?
I think it's similar but different. I think, for example, the LLMS TXT files, are markdown files that you can use specifically to try and help LLMs better understand and interact with content on your website. That's something that is a little bit different, but not too different from the idea of the robots TXT files. You still want to be using schema to help both search engine crawlers and AI crawlers understand your site. Again, it's just looking to see if there are particular things that maybe make a little bit more sense for those AI crawlers. But on the writing side of things, one thing to be thinking about that is a little bit different is passage level relevance versus page level relevance. So Google is trying to decide whether it wants to rank your entire page, whereas LLMs are trying to decide if they want to pull a specific passage. And so it's a little bit different thinking about that. But again, structuring clear headings, putting context into what you're saying, breaking things up into small digestible pieces, I think all of that is still applicable.
yeah, and I actually think that this is one of the ways that it's actually good for consumers. Like, don't you all hate looking up recipes? I don't want to hear the background. That is SEO's fault. That is our fault. I apologize. You don't want to hear the backstory of how they got the recipe. They were driving through the back, like different things like that. I don't want to hear, you know, an intro and then what is a banana? What's the history of a banana? Like, right? Like, it's our fault. Search engines have preferred sort of this long-winded, comprehensive, topically based thing so that they can rank for this banana, that important keyword, right? Like the amount of search volume with that, it's got to be unreal. uh, but that's not really how the LLMs work, right? So they're going to look at, like Lauren said, at a more contextual level. And so I think from a user standpoint, for us as people who are making the content, we don't have to always do that with this in mind. Now, you might still want to do it with SEO in mind, but you don't have to do it with LLMs in mind. And it's probably actually a better user experience, right? It's probably easier to read because you're breaking up the headers and then the answers and subject verb object agreement, right? Like just simplicity of the text that versus the verbose SEO blah 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 that we've historically done, right? So I think that all those things are good. And the idea of, I guess, yeah, Lauren hit it on all. I think it's good for readers. So yeah.
And what a fantastic way to really help people understand out there, right? By using their recipe example. Because I know myself, when I see it, I click jump to recipe so quick because I'm not going to sit there and read about the history of the baguette in the south of France and how it came to be. I'm just not going to do it, but I do want to know what's the ingredients so that I can bake a baguette. So continuing in that wavelength of how can marketers adapt, we're looking at, so with AI able to generate content so easily, should marketers spend time and resources creating original content? Or is that a bit of a waste of time? Does it lose its value, is the question.
I think that original content is more important than ever because of that. And while you can leverage AI in planning and even in like ideas to expand your content, you have to give your own unique perspective and say something new if you want to be recognized as an authority by Google and by the LLM. So there's this idea of like new and novel. And so when something is new and novel, it's more likely to be trusted and more likely to be sourced. And so you have to be giving your own unique perspective. What can you say that other people aren't necessarily saying, so that you can stand out above all of the junk that people are creating with AI?
Yeah, along the same lines, usually when I'm talking to clients and trying to explain why I want to pick their brains and get some of their firsthand insights, it's because if we are just regurgitating what's already on page one of Google, what's already in the AI overviews, what's already showing up in ChatGPT, why on earth would they decide to put us there instead of what's there if we don't have anything new or interesting to offer? And that's why, like Paula is saying, you really want to incorporate that originality, whether it's original data, which can be very difficult to compile, and everyone wants to be able to cite relevant statistics, or just your experience in the field. I agree, it's more important than ever.
Agreed. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, and we all know that AI can get things wrong, right? So Paul already mentioned, and Lauren as well, how AI is pulling information from different places and essentially can create, junk if it's not cross-checked and validated and make sure that it's accurate. So knowing that AI can get things wrong, should businesses prepare strategies to correct misinformation that is dispensed by AI programs? So whether due to AI hallucination or from AI models scraping incorrect information from the web.
Yeah, I do think this is important. I think likely it's a little bit less about hallucinations and more about just kind of malicious activity, right? Like this opens up the opportunity for people to spam the internet with bad things about you that will show up in LLMs, right? Like, please, no one do that. But it is a distinct possibility that you can do it, right? And that is something that can take over how you are talked about in LLMs. And so I think that you need to monitor your brand, right? Like regularly ask the LLMs what they know about you. What is it that you look like to them? Will Reynolds, who's probably a lot of y'all know in our space, talked about one of the ways that you maybe wouldn't think about that his brand was talked about, and he couldn't figure out why is it that they keep talking about us as remote first. And what he discovered was it was in the footer of his webpage, right? So every single page on his website talked about his brand in that way. And it gives you a picture of how LLMs work, right? They are scraping the more things that they can see associated with your brand. If every single page of your site you say that you're a remote first agency, that's what they are going to put up there about you. Now, he of course made that change, but you could see how people could maliciously use that. I think you so you need to monitor it, monitor reviews, how you're talked about in public spaces. Those things are going to matter. Yelp, you might not have thought it was a big deal. It's a big deal now. Like, sorry. And so how you are talked about on there is the reality of what's going to get picked up in LLMs. So monitor it. And if there are places where you are like you're seeing patterns of sort of negative things. Again, I think it would be less just hallucinations and more just kind of malicious things. You can try to go directly to the source and get those taken down, or you can combat it with how you talk about yourself and do positive PR. But yeah, I mean, I think it's real. I think it's rare, but it could happen.
This is kind of goes back to stuff that we used to do even before LLMs were around, was just looking for like incorrect and inconsistent business information and then tracing it back to the source. So like there could be old business profiles out there on Yelp, on industry directories, on the yellow pages that's just gotten like pushed all around everywhere. And so if you see something that's incorrect, you can try asking it like, hey, where are you getting that information? But then you could also just pivot to Google and say, like your brand name and that bit of information. And then you can find the places that that's talked about and then go update it directly on those sites that are you. If that's like a profile site, usually it's easy to update that stuff.
And one thing that I'll add, obviously, yeah, going to the source and just trying to change that makes a ton of sense. And I think that's where we have a lot of control. This, not sure how effective it is, but at least in ChatGPT, you can downvote responses, and you can also provide specific details about what you didn't like about it, if there was an error, and even offer a correction. So obviously, one person doing that one time, hard to say how much of an impact it'll make, but especially if it's something really important to your business, that is something that we can be trying and testing as well.
Thank you for those responses. So I myself recently learned that Facebook and Instagram posts are now being indexed in search. I was aware of TikTok, but I wasn't aware of Facebook and Instagram. So my question to all of you, should marketers focus their efforts more on off-site content generation, particularly social media?
I would say yes. Content repurposing is something that we have been spending a lot more time with lately because of the fact that these really big sites do tend to get referenced and both in organic search as well as in LLMs. And even going beyond the sites that you mentioned, we see YouTube and Reddit as citation sources a lot. And so if you go back to a concept that Will Scott, our CEO, coined back in 2008 called barnacle SEO, this idea is that you attach yourself to a large moving object and you can then, get the benefit of moving along with that object. And so just like with Yelp, Yelp has good authority. And so your profile on Yelp is likely to get cited. And so if you think about it from that perspective, you're actually leveraging the authority of those sites to get your content to be, better discovered, better referenced, more highly referenced within AI and organic search. And so it's a great way to get your content up there that's not your own website. And kind of going back to the first question where you talked about, are we seeing a dip in traffic? One of the things that we do see more is dips in traffic to blog posts, because those are for informational searches where people are getting that answer and then they're moving on, as opposed to like, say, your services pages. And so one way you can combat the fact that you're losing that traffic on your blog post is by repurposing your blog posts as other types of content on other websites that are then likely to get surfaced. And people are, depending on the social media site, people are actually searching those sites in the same way that they are Google. We did a research study that we're about to put out in a couple of weeks in the higher education space that where we asked, which of these sites do you use in the same way that you use Google? And it's like 62% of people search YouTube in the same way that they search Google, which is just like so awesome to see that. A lot less on social media. For AI search, it was like 50% of people say that they use it in the same way they use Google. And social media was, lower, and social is just so fragmented that it's also, such a smaller percentage when you think about that as well.
I'm going to be watching for that report. That sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that it's not really an either or, but I think that social media and these other sites are really great for augmenting SEO. Like I was talking about before with, internet traffic for traditional search engines versus AI engines. Google's still a bigger share than things like, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but it all adds up as well if you're, gaining traction in those different places. And again, thinking about what matters most for your audience. Obviously, TikTok skews younger. So if you have a pretty young target audience, then you might actually want to invest more in TikTok than Google, if that's really where your audience is, even if that's not reflected in larger global trends. We also know that people tend to look on TikTok and use it as a search engine for specific fields like looking for restaurants, shopping, and travel. So again, if you're in one of those verticals, it could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, agreed. If you're B2B SaaS, nope, probably not important, but where's your audience? Where are they considering your product? It's not really a one size fits all. I don't like, what is YouTube social? Sure. If so, outside of that, I don't see a ton. I mean, you might see different things. I don't see a ton of it in the LLMs. All this stuff can change, but like, I don't think it's a huge play for that either necessarily. But search, uh, like traditional search, yeah, it's starting to make headway in certain areas for sure. So if it meets your audience, like I think you have to look at how much time you have as a marketer, right? You can't be everywhere. And so uh, I'd step back in all this stuff and say, where is my audience? Because if I can be there, that is the best use of my time, period. Like if they aren't using LLMs, then don't worry about this, right? Like go where they are. If they're on some niche discussion site, go there. It might get searched or it might show up in an LLM, but like that is your best use of time.
And I just want to take a step back because I know we've been using a couple acronyms throughout this conversation this evening and hearing LLMs. And I know earlier I said SERPs. Can someone explain for our audience what LLM is?
Sure. It's a large language model, which is sort of what all these things use to figure out what they want to display when you put in a prompt. So yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I use that one as the default. I know everybody does GEO for what we do anymore, generative engine optimization, but I always just call them the LLMs broadly.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to add to that explanation? Okay. So now let's look at measuring, right? An important aspect of marketing is being able to measure your return on investment, so to speak. So how do you measure the impact of AI on brand visibility? Is that even possible? And if so, what tools are you using?
Well, there are tools. I don't know. I mean, they're getting better. Like SEMrush, we kind of use that, and they launched it less than a month ago, I feel like, and it's already gotten a little bit better. I really think it's important to look at it from a couple different standpoints, right? And honestly, in ways that if you don't have a dollar, you can probably do some of these things. And the first is like where do you have are you eligible to be on the LLMs at all, right? Like because we want to improve that if we aren't, right? So you can, and this is where it gets nerdy, y'all, but like log files are a real thing that are actually helpful for this. And this is where it gets back to kind of the idea of Cloudflare. Or if you access your log files in a different way, you can actually see how the bots are going to your site, how often they're going, and it gives you an idea of like if they're fetching your data, you're probably being considered. Whether you get you know whether you get actual traffic from it or not, you're being considered. Another thing to look at, and I just say this because this happened with one of our clients. If you are on Cloudflare, uh, or if you use any sort of web security, check your log files because we had a client and they just didn't seem like they were as prominent as they should be in LLMs. Let's just say that. We were like, there's something amiss here. So we looked at their log files, and sure enough, we could see like so there are two different bots with ChatGPT. So I'm going to get nerdy for a bit, but there's like the bot, the GPT bot that basically brings back training data, right? So it's how the stuff that they store at, you know, in terms of being able to capture what they want to. That's the training data. So they have a bot for that. Then they also have a bot for when people, they want to go and look at search results, and then they go to your site. They look at them, and that you can see the bot will actually go. Well, they had their security pretty high because they had been attacked by bot attacks. And what was happening was the ChatGPT user bot, which is the one that would return a lot of the instant things into after searching a prompt, was it was showing unavailable for a lot of the things, a lot of the times that the bot was coming. So that is the first thing. Like if you're blocking them, you're not going to show up, right? It's very easy, very obvious first thing. Make sure that you can be in the mix at all. And then, I think it's important to kind of the best that you can look at the channel metrics. So like, are we actually showing up? There are a couple ways that you could maybe look at that from Google Search Console. You can like look at it from like 9-word queries, can kind of get at it. You can look at some regex of different types of things in combination with that. I've seen people have done. The free way that is less technical is take 5 or 10 searches that you think move the needle for your business and put them in all of them, record them in sheets, and see whether you're showing up regularly, right? Are we showing up? Very simple. And keep track of them. And then the last one is just like, is it really moving business outcomes? You can look at referral traffic. There's regex that you can put in Google Analytics that you can get referral data from the different ones. So you can see actually how much referral traffic you're getting to your website. Does it make any difference? Are those people spending any time on your site? Are they purchasing? Are they becoming clients? And those are all things that can, number one, tell you whether this is something you need to invest more time in, if there are things that you need to correct, or if it's just a waste of your time. If this is just a vanity thing, oh, great, we show up, no one is buying from us, no one is becoming a client. So just a couple different ways that we've looked at.
Yeah, along with the AI referral traffic, looking at, of course, where they're coming from, but you can also see the pages that they're landing on, and that can kind of tell you some, like directionally, which pages tend to be favored that are either information, or essentially that information is being cited from those pages, and you're being listed as a source for somebody to click through. And we have tested a good number of AI SEO tracking tools. And our favorites were, I'm going to paste a blog post in the chat, but our favorites were Scrunch and Profound. We ultimately moved forward with Scrunch. They're not perfect, just like no analytics is perfect, really. And they're all getting better. And you may have a tool that you pay for right now that's adding something on. So like Brian mentioned, SEMrush. So if you already pay for SEMrush, they'll have something, they're going to add more. If you have advanced web ranking, they have something, they're going to make it better. So there are going to be a lot more options as we move forward. So like one of the things we've been telling people is to not sign a long-term contract for any of these tools, because of the fact that you don't want to get locked in with something and then, a shinier tool gets, updated, or a new tool comes out that you want to switch to.
Yeah, it's funny. We've also done some free trials and done some calls, and there were things still in beta that, we were being told about. So I think it's smart not to sign up for anything long term. Like y'all have mentioned, SEMrush, if you're already on there, they do have a way to look for AI overviews that you're in, which is really great. And again, that does seem to be, I kind of think about AI overviews and like ChatGPT and those other engines a little bit differently. Like we said earlier, AI overviews are getting more eyeballs on them. They are kind of siphoning away some clicks from Google. So that's something you could pay more attention to, and it's already in SEMrush. But in terms of expanding to other tools, we've worked with Otterly AI, which was a much more affordable option. And that does have it tells you your number of brand mentions for tracked prompts, share of voice compared to your competitors, your brand position in the AI answers. We also looked at Peak, PEEC AI, which seemed like kind of a good middle ground, and that I believe also had brand sentiment reporting. So whether you're getting more positive sentiment, neutral sentiment, negative sentiment, things like that, which Otterly does not have. But we also liked Profound best. So it's reassuring to hear you say, Paula, that you like that one as well. But the big thing that has been disappointing for me and that I'd really like to see is obviously with tools like SEMrush, Moz, Ahrefs, we can get estimated search volume for keywords. And I mean, there are some estimates in some of these tools, but they seem a lot less reliable. And that would be really helpful information that I'm definitely looking out for in tools in the future.
Thank you. And then leaning into AI overviews that you were mentioning, Lauren, how can we improve brand visibility in AI overviews, such as Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot as examples? Do Yelp reviews and backlinks and social media posts help build brand authority in LLMs?
Well, I think
Mike,
again,
the
it's
one. You can
oh,
go ahead, Lauren.
I think again, I think about AI overviews in Google a little bit differently than I think about the AI engines. But one thing that we're seeing is these AI platforms definitely heavily favor community forums and discussions, especially Reddit, but also some Quora. And so thinking about your presence there is a really, really big one.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're like two separate things, right? There's first how you talk about yourself on your website. So like that place. Um, in reality, like so that means like topical coverage of speaking to the concerns, questions. Like it's kind of good SEO that got talked about sort of in the more recent past that is now like this is the best practice for AI. It's like you're not worrying about keywords. It's more about topics, right? What are your customers asking for? What are their questions? Talk to your sales team if you have a sales team. See what people are asking. Answer those questions on your website. And those are things that they'll be typing into LLMs, right? So there are those things, and if you do have a sales team, have them use the AI recordings and then just send it to you, right? And you can get you can probably have AI pull the questions out. For 10 sales calls, boom, you've got tons of content right there. And then, also like Lauren hit on, just also the places that your product or service are talked about. I've heard it talked about like ping pong balls in a bingo game, right? So, and this is if for content that is within the learning model, right? Not the content that they go out. If in those cases, it's the top 20 results of Google or the top 20 results of Bing, and plus their fan out queries, right? But for the stuff that is in the brain of the LLMs, it's like the more bingo balls that you can have your name on when they are selecting those bingo numbers, if you show up, if your name's on there, then you're going to make it. It's why like there's more difference in LLM citations than there are in Google, right? Google says this is the right page. We'll personalize it to you some. It's like yes, there are things like Wikipedia and Reddit, things that are really talk about a lot of different things that show up a lot, in part probably because they talk about a lot of different things. But the LLMs are also trying to get an idea of third-party sentiment for your brand or things, right? I mean, ideally, all this other stuff is kind of vanity in my hot take time, right? Like all these things are kind of vanity outside of a LLM saying FSC Interactive is the best marketing agency in New Orleans, right? Like that's what you want. You want to be referred by the large language models. All the other stuff, it's got a 1% click-through rate. People don't even notice. They're getting the answering and moving on. And so, yeah, how do you do that? You have to be as well, right. You have to be mentioned a lot, but then also you want to have reviews in the place where your people care about the reviews. So like TripAdvisor, Yelp, Trustpilot, G2, wherever your product or service is reviewed, they're going to look at that and make some of their decisions based on those things, right? So, yeah.
And so finally looking forward, are there any trends for how the average person uses AI that will affect overall SEO strategy going forward? Are there any predictions for how marketers can get ahead of the next AI disruption?
I do think eventually the average person, probably depending on their age. I mean, sometimes the baby boomers can get pretty into their technology. And, when I go to a restaurant, little side note, when I go to a restaurant, I see more baby boomers on their phones at those tables than I do Gen X and millennials. And so the baby boomers might actually start to click on the search. Today, I was doing a search from my phone on the Google app, and the first, how it shows you the suggestions, they gave you two options to click to how to search this thing was in AI mode and then via typical organic search. This is the first time I've seen this. And so I'm very in tune to what I'm seeing on my phone. A baby boomer is not going to be in tune to what they're seeing. They're just going to click the first one. And so they're going to end up in AI mode and they're not even going to know it. Meta is feeding it to people as well to get them to search through Meta's AI. And so I do think it's going to be more popular than we might think for the older generation. So I think that people are going to start to get more used to it, whether they like intentionally go to AI or not. And for that reason, when you think about like SEO and what you need to do differently, it is putting more and more information about like your specific business on your site and answering those questions, like Brian was saying, because people want to be able to sort of like self-serve when they're making even B2B buying decisions. There's a lot of stats and data that talk about the fact that people are reaching out to a lot less businesses. Like they're not going to reach out to 9 businesses. They're going to reach out to 3 businesses. And they're going to do a lot of research before they decide which of those 3 businesses they're going to reach out to. Those are not official stats. Those are like me making up stats. There's something, somewhere along those lines. So in order for you to actually get that phone call or to get that form fill or get that appointment booked, you have to give up more information on your site than you may be comfortable doing. And that's a conversation that we have to have with a lot of our clients who said, no, we just want to get them on the phone and then we'll answer all their questions, which, we've heard for
right?
A very long time. Pricing being a huge one. And I was just talking about this on another webinar yesterday, which was like the way you list your pricing. Like there are so many, when you think about a university, there's so many different ways you can talk about your prices by credit, by semester, for the whole entire degree. And so if you do a search for like how much does an MBA cost, you're going to get LSU's price in a different format that you get Tulane's price, and they're kind of all over the place. And so you do kind of have to think about what is the user ultimately going to understand best and make sure that you're talking about things, especially pricing, in a way that they ultimately can understand it. So people want to get the information wherever they're searching. And so you got to give it up and give it to them on your site so that everybody can crawl it and display it in their answers.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of that, in the same way that, Google, for example, is leveraging AI in different ways to try to keep people in their ecosystem and in their search results for longer. If you have the means, do that on your own website, right? So that once people are there, again, like Paula is saying, they have everything they need. They don't need to be going elsewhere. Chatbots have come a long way. Maybe it's time to reconsider those again if you don't have one. Think about, I think Google has something in beta, I believe, for working on being able to schedule appointments or make reservations based on specific user input that they're working on. So you could say, I want a restaurant like this that has this many seats open with like this view or whatever. Or that has like vegan things, and you can give it a lot of information. If you have that on your website and allow people to do those kinds of tasks more easily using AI, I think that could be a huge way to kind of stay ahead of the curve.
I mean, who knows, right? I think it's the hard thing about our job is that we kind of constantly have to try to stay informed the best that we can. For me, like in terms of prediction wise, like I said it earlier, I just follow the money, right? Like these are big companies that need a lot of money to function. And so, they announced in the past week that ChatGPT is going to allow people to directly buy from the platform. If you're in e-commerce, you need to learn about this, right? Like, so if it's already there for Etsy stores and it's moving out to Shopify soon, whatever that means, right? So dig into that. Like there's a lot of data involved. You can actually win over the big guy because the big guy doesn't have the time maybe to fill out all the information of their many product SKUs that you do as a small business. You can fill out all the data and your products can come up in the LLMs in places that the big guys can't. You can win in this, and so that would be one thing. I feel like the same along those same lines with Google AI answers or AI overviews is they are going to try to monetize this, and so and that way it's for anybody who does paid search, and I do paid search as much as I do SEO. And if you talk to your rep, they probably already told you, right? It's AI max and broad match. So if you're those are the words that ring in our ears as PPC folks, but like that is going to be their way of getting you and your product in front of people when they think that there are buyers out there on AI overviews. And so it might be worth some experiments there. They are absolutely going to, as I said earlier, they would have it 75% of the time be just AI overviews if they could monetize it correctly and have the balance down correctly. So it is going to go there. So if you do a lot of PPC, it's something to kind of experiment with.
Patira, you're muted.
That leaves us at about we're at 6:53, and that leaves us 7 minutes for Q&A. So I'm going to go right into our Q&A box, and our first question says, do you think that ChatGPT will lose the market with Google now integrating Gemini in Chrome? And why still use an extra tool if Google and Chrome does it all?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, ChatGPT is definitely the biggest of the other players in this, and I think that they have quite a bit of penetration there. Like I know, again, there's a lot of data behind it, right? That there's a lot of prompts that are happening. I do think some of it is overblown. Rand Fishkin did a great video that a couple of y'all probably saw this week, and he said that when you factor in everything, all things considered, Google probably has 200 times the amount of searches per day that ChatGPT does. I don't know. It will definitely take them a long time to match them. But I do feel like ChatGPT was sort of an early mover that people have gotten acquainted with and like it. And I know, again, this is not everyone, but like I hear a lot of people tell me, even old folks, right, that are like, I use it for everything. So it is their search source of truth there, which is kind of sad, right? But because truth is not its great strong point, but I do think Google will probably eventually win, but I don't think that ChatGPT is going to go away. I think all of them will have some presence. I think that they are extremely costly, though. I don't understand all the economics of LLMs, but our power bills say that they are very costly. So I think that they're going to have to figure out ways to monetize them a little bit better.
Yeah, like Brian was saying, I think Generally, Google, again, still is just so far in the lead. It's probably where people should be paying the most attention. But again, in specific use cases, if your audience is there, like I know ChatGPT has a really good deal for students, right? And a lot of students are using that for their homework. So if that's something that's relevant to you, for example, or if you know that your audience is there, it may be worth paying attention to. But if not, then, focus on where your audience is first and foremost.
Paula, did you want to add to that?
I mean, the only thing I was thinking was just with my personal experience, like we have Gemini that through our Google Apps for Business, like every single person in the company does, but we are still paying for probably 10 ChatGPT accounts monthly. And so it's like you just get in this mindset of like, this is my place, this is my thing, this is my go-to. And that's where you tend to, default, even though the new thing has come out in Chrome. You really tend to go back to the place that you have built up all this history as well. Like ChatGPT knows me pretty well now. And so it would be a switching cost. Like I switched from a shared paid account to my own paid account. And it took me a little bit to like let go of the history and the knowledge that I had built up in my old shared account because I had to retrain it, with what I wanted.
There's another question in the chat that says, how do you feel about the news that ChatGPT will have instant checkout with Spotify and Etsy? And Brian, I think you talked about this earlier.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I haven't seen it in the wild. I don't know. Have any of y'all seen it? I, you know, I I think it's cool in a way, like because there are opportunities on ChatGPT that the little guy can win in ways that it's really hard to do on Google. And even, I mean, even things like Etsy, the little guy can kind of, make their way in there too. But when you start talking about things like Shopify, that's massive. And so I'm hopeful that gives sort of maybe will level the playing field a little bit there to where it's going to better unearth the right things for people, right? Like it's just it'll help a little bit more widely. But yeah, I'm curious if people are comfortable to buy like that. I haven't really seen it in action to have a great feedback on it though. But interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought as well is, on the one hand, if it makes the user experience more seamless and there are, like you said, more opportunities that, maybe some smaller businesses can take advantage of, then that's great. However, I personally would be doing a lot of fact checking before I bought anything just directly through ChatGPT.
And you were going to go ahead, Paula. You do it. You go ahead. Well, just like what I've seen in studies, like a lot of people are jump from ChatGPT and then actually buy on Google. Was that what you were going to say? I stole your thunder. I'm sorry.
No, you did. You're good. I was just going to say, I feel like I do a lot of validation and a lot of checking. Like even if I upload an AI companion transcript and it's giving me a summary, I'm like, did you really pull that from my transcript? I'm going to ask it that. Did you really pull it from my transcript? And I ask for receipts, and it'll like actually give me quotes and kind of like say like where within the transcript. But yes, I do think you need that. And I think people are, again, kind of going to like what we're trained to do, what we're accustomed to doing. People are accustomed to doing that at this point. I mean, I guess eventually when you're like, okay, all right, I'm not getting wrong information, then you're not going to do that quite as much. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. We're not so much into e-commerce, so I don't have as many things to say about that. But we do like ticket sales, but not like product sales.
And then one last question I'll ask the group for all of our participants is, where do you go to find your resources, information around AI so that you stay up to date on all of the changes in the world of AI? So what are some of the go-to honest, truthful sources that you look to stay abreast of AI information?
So many. Go ahead, Paula.
One of my favorite people is actually somebody that Brian mentioned before, which is Will Reynolds of Seer Interactive, SEER Interactive. He puts a lot of information out there on LinkedIn. And one of the things that I like about following his posts is that you get a lot of commentary on those posts as well. And then you can learn a lot from the commentary too. So he's definitely somebody I would, follow. And Rand Fishkin, he's another really great one. So his company, SparkToro, they are purchasing data from a company called Datos, and then they're like thinking about it through their lens of, really what's happening. And so he has a lot of good information, and he does kind of like a lot of like myth debunking of the fact that ChatGPT isn't as big as you would think, and that Google is still important. Google searches have gone up. And so both of those guys can kind of help you kind of cut through some of the noise. And of course, you can follow Search Influence because we're putting out a lot of stuff as well, and doing a lot of testing on what's working for our clients.
Yeah, Mike King, his AI search manual, it'll take you a month to read it, but it's if you're working in this, you really need to do it. Like we didn't scratch the surface. It's very technical, but it's important. And along with what Paul said, I would be very active on LinkedIn. Once you start interacting with people who are talking about this stuff on LinkedIn, your feed will begin to show more people like that. So it's like every other social network, but when you interact, you'll start to see more of the same. So yeah, Mike King, Andrew Holland is another one. Yeah.
And the last thing that I'll add, it's basic, but don't forget to follow ChatGPT, Perplexity, like these actual AI engines at the source. Obviously, going to be a little bit more biased, but you still want to be getting that information about, okay, what are the changes that they're making? What are the things that they're looking towards? It's a good place to start with some of that information as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this conversation around AI and SEO. I'm going to turn it over to our president, Shariq, in case she wanted to say some closing words on behalf of the webinar.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Thank you to our panelists for just sharing with us, because this is valuable information. These are questions that people are asking themselves all the time right now, with AI taking over just about every part of marketing. So we just want to thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us all. And thank you to our attendees who are here as well. We appreciate it. And thank you to Patera for being our moderator tonight. We appreciate that. Yes, thank you all, and hope you have a great night.
All right.
Thank y'all for having
Good
us.
night.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Do you want to stop recording?